What's up, everybody? I'm Steve Lewis, host of Buck Obsession.
Big buck right there,
And welcome to the 2019 podcast. With this podcast, you're going to hear tips and tactics, hunting stories, and gear review. It's a passion of ours. We're family, faith, and friendships. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Buck Obsession TV podcast. This week's episode, we're going to talk about getting the youth into hunting. Hunting depends on recruiting the youngsters, so it's important that we go back to our roots. When I was brought into the hunting world, when I was young, when I was 5 or 6 years old, and I was introduced to squirrel hunting, deer hunting, and then moving up to where I'm at now as an adult. So there's a lot of things to take in consideration when doing this. You got to keep the youngster involved. You got to keep them motivated and keep a passion to the sport. So there's a lot of little things. I know some states require a minimum age requirement before you can introduce or take your child hunting in the outdoors. But there's no really magic number to that. So unless there's a requirement with the state on that as well. So I'm going to go over just some bullet points, kind of tell you, I have a son. He's 15 years old. I'm sure you've seen him on the show, on some shows that we've produced and put on our television show on the Pursuit Channel with Colby. So we introduced him at a very young age. He was probably around 4 or 5 years old when he started going with me. I would take him into the woods there. We would start out with like a ground blind set, because it was a lot easier at him being such a young hunter, or introducing him into the hunting world, because of movement, because of getting bored. You got to really adapt to this. So you got to make it fun for your child. So when we went into the woods, into the ground blind, he would take like his little Nintendo DS, and he would keep the volume really low. When he would get bored, he would play with that. We would take a lot of snacks. Make sure they're dressed warm for the weather elements. Make sure hand warmers are good. Make sure they have the proper insulated boots, clothing as well. Because once that happens, I've seen this. Once you take a young hunter out there and introduce him, and then he gets cold, and they start to get that negative vibe about the hunting experience, because they're getting exposed to the element. They don't like it. They rather sit home. They rather be in the warm environment, and it really takes that passion and motivation out of them. So you got to kind of watch out how you do that. So we would do that, make sure he was fully equipped, introduce him, like I said, ground blind hunting, and then I would observe and see that he was starting to adapt. He wouldn't have a gun, a weapon, or anything like that. We would watch how he would, observe out into the open, out into the woods, how he would look for squirrels. He would look for a deer coming through. So just seeing his attention to the environment around him outside of the ground blind, I started picking up on that, and I started noticing he was getting more involved. He was asking more questions, because he wasn't bored. He was being able to, when he did get bored, play his Nintendo DS. He was able to have a granola bar, or some almonds or something in the stand that was preoccupying him, so he wouldn't get too bored. But on the other side, he was understanding and observing and learning, basically, different traits. He was watching me. He would always see what I would be doing when it came to me observing outside the ground blind, how I would move, where I would not just quickly move my head around to look to the left, look to the right. I mean, it's a smooth, slow motion to do that. He was watching. Again, followed up with a lot of questions of this, and this, and you definitely want to give them the intelligence and give them the answer to that. Take them on short hunts. I know it gets, when you're out in the woods and you're sitting there for hours after hours, for us as adults, it can be easy and it can be hard also, but for a young child to be out there and to sit for long periods of time, it gets tough. So you want to introduce them to short burst of hunting. Whether you get there in the morning and you hunt 2 or 3 hours, You got to keep them occupied, you got to keep them excited, and you got to keep them motivated. So you don't want to go past a certain time, because then they're just going to be like, this is boring, I don't want to do this no more. Again, it's important to get our youth out into the outdoors. I mean, we all are hunters. We've all been exposed by our fathers, grandfathers, or friends or whatever to this sport. So we want to bring the youth into this and keep them occupied and keep them engaged with the hunting industry and hunting environment. Got a few notes here that I wrote down. One thing is, once they get old enough too, take them target practicing. Whether, if you want to do archery, that's great. That's very skillful. Takes a lot of time, but definitely introduce them to that for that weaponry. But also when we get into firearms, you don't want to say, all right, hey, little Johnny, I'm going to take you out here today, or, I'm going to give you a 12 gauge shotgun with buckshot in it, or I'm going to let you shoot a 300 Win Mag. It doesn't work like that. You have to start them low. Start them out with like a 22 caliber, a pellet gun. Show them mechanics, how to hold the gun, how the proper way to hold it. Definitely safety, how that safety operates. You want to show them, how to easily pull the trigger, that you don't trigger slap it. There's things you want to teach these young kids when it comes to firearms out in the woods as well, when you introduce them to that. You don't want to scare them with the recoil, because like what happens is, you put them into a 12 gauge shotgun with a slug, and they pull the trigger, and they're, say 8 years old, 7 years old, whatever, they're gonna some are gonna feel recoil, obviously, and they're gonna get freaked out. So you don't want to really introduce them to that. Don't want to scare them on that. Provide them the safety and how to handle that firearm with proficiency. Once they qualify with that, then we can move on to different things. Youth Model 243 is what my son used, and he's moved up now. He uses he's 15. He uses a 6.5 Creedmoor out there right now. So he's moved up, and we've went through phases, and it takes time. I know every father gets excited where they take their son or daughter out into the outdoors for hunting, and we want them to bag that deer of a lifetime. But one thing I want to preach to is we do get somewhat selfish out there, that we always want to look for that biggest buck, and want to harvest that big antlered buck. But I can tell you right now, we go back to the roots of all of hunting. If a doe steps out, let them shoot it. If a 3-pointer steps out, 4-pointer, let them shoot it. That's a trophy to them. I mean, they're young. They're a young hunter just now getting introduced to the outdoors. Man, every animal's a trophy to them. So you want to make sure, as a parent, you don't want to be telling them, hey, we're waiting for that big 8 or 10-pointer to come through, and then all of a sudden they see 6 or 7 does step out, and you're like, don't shoot them. Now, I've been there, I've done that, but I've also told my son, hey, pick a doe out, whatever you want to shoot it, because that's a trophy to them. But definitely look out for those. Once you harvest the animal, though, one thing too you don't want to freak the young hunter out is, when it gets into the blood and the internals of the animal. When you're field dressing it, you just don't want to say, oh, here you go, here's your knife, go ahead and field dress it, because they're not going to know what to do. So obviously you got to show them. But you also got to introduce the fact that, some people or some kids are not going to like that type of environment, and you have to kind of understand that. But, let them get comfortable with that. So you as getting the young hunter in, give them the education on how to field dress, and then make sure they have the proper equipment, gloves, latex gloves, towels, and a nice a field dressing knife as well. It comes along with it, and be safe with it. But you don't want to rush them into field dressing, say, oh, I'm lazy, I don't want to do it. Hey, you do it, but no, let them ease into that type of thing there when it comes to field dressing that animal after the hunt. But again, that's a choice you make as a parent with your hunter. But just food for thought on that. Again, cold weather, make sure they have proper hand warmers. Get them some hot hands or something, put them in their pockets. Make sure he, again, have snacks and quality clothing as well. So these are just little tips and I want to go over, because I tell you, we have to get young hunters involved, because if not, they're going to be sitting at home playing on video games. They're just going to be sitting back, vegging on the couch watching TV, or they're going to be out, who knows, getting in trouble. I don't know, but just get them in the outdoors, take them on a hike. If you're leasing a piece of property or a state property or whatever, go on a hike, introduce them to squirrel hunting, deer hunting, turkey hunting, and get the kids involved. There's plenty of things out there in the outdoors they can do. You can get them involved, which I've done with my son, with Colby. We've done a lot. He's filmed my hunts. We've come up a long way since I introduced him to hunting. He can actually run the cameras now. He knows how the behind the scene things when we do film for television. He's very proficient with the firearm. He's proficient with the bows. So he's really good out there in the field, and he understands safety is first, paramount. He understands, we don't go up in a tree stand without our safety harnesses on. He's in our lifelines. He's got all that down. He wears that, and he believes in it. He's only 15, so that's awesome, because back when I started hunting, really I didn't hunt from tree stands. I hunted from the ground. I'd kick a few leaves out from around the tree and I'd hunt right there. And, again, growing up, getting no tree stand harnesses. So when you introduce your child to hunting, you want to make sure you're doing the right things too, and being safe and obeying laws as well out there in the field. So you want to pass that down to your child and the youth as well when it comes to hunting. I do offer, I do produce, actually, I show some youth hunts on our television show, at least designate an episode for that. For youth hunting. I love they have the youth deer seasons for turkey and deer and everything else. We take full advantage of that, and it's awesome to do. And matter of fact, we have a turkey hunt coming up here in April with Buck Obsession, with a youth hunter coming from Pennsylvania down that won a hunt with us from the NWTF turkey calling competition in Richmond, Virginia last year at the Virginia Outdoor Sportsman Show. So we got him coming up here in April, which is going to be awesome to have him come in and try to get him a turkey on the ground. And he's a youth hunter, so it's going to be pretty cool. And we'll air that hunt with our success. We had success with it last year. I'm sure we'll have success this year. Plenty of turkeys out there that I've seen this year. But with that said, it's all about getting the youth into hunting. These are just my opinions and my things on takes on that. Like I was saying with Colby, he's graduated up. He's still a youth hunter. He's 15, but he still learns every day, every year out in the outdoors. We got him into food plot management now. He loves doing that when it comes to utilizing our plot master and the food plots and laying out our killer food plot seed. He's all for it. He loves watching the growth of the food plots. He loves watching how that takes shape. He loves the trail cam pictures that come in from our sniper hunting product, Sailor cams that we have, and it comes to our phones. He's into it, and again, that's what I'm talking about, getting them in, because we have to get the youth involved even more. And it starts with people like us. We're hunters. We're outdoorsmen and women out there, and we need to get our kids more involved. And it's a fun sport. It's fun. I know a lot of times people see the television shows on TV. It is business. It's entertainment. But also, if we take that away, we are still outdoor hunters and enthusiasts, and we enjoy the sport as well, besides just the business aspect of things, and we like to pass it down. So don't forget also, check out buckobsessiontv.com for this podcast here. This will be on our video podcast page that you can find on our website, and we will kick it over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so you can listen to this and tune into this as well. It's something new we're doing, a new endeavor, where we've gotten 3 shows done now. This will be our 4th, and we are truly pumped and excited. We are definitely got some special guests lined up coming in the near future here, from some Cabela Pro staff members who's in the industry to some awesome hunting personalities that wants to come on and talk as well, an interview, and it's going to be a great time, and I cannot wait to do that. But one thing with Buck Obsession TV is we're, family, faith, and friendship. That's our motto, and we believe very strong into that. We have some great companies behind us for partnership that we're truly blessed to be a part of, and we're gonna move on with them and throw a lot of content, whether it's video or photography, and we're gonna definitely get that out, and we're gonna move forward, and we're gonna enjoy hunting and all the God's creations given us. And it's important to understand that tomorrow's not guaranteed. So have fun, make sure that you enjoy the outdoors, enjoy everything, and just remember family, faith, and friendship, because that's our motto, and we believe very strong about that. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, follow us on that, our website, again, buckobsessiontv.com. We have a lot of links to our sponsors. We have our podcast page, Video on Demand. We have a photo gallery and shop. You can do a shopping online cart there on our website. We have some cool 20-ounce tumbler mugs that you can order as well. And we are making an appearance this year in Richmond, so if you are in Virginia, definitely head down to the Virginia Outdoor Sportsman Show and check us out. We will be having a booth down there in Richmond, Virginia this August 9th through 11th, so we'll be down there. So definitely come by and say hi. But with that said, folks, I'm going to end this podcast. Hope you enjoyed talking about getting the youth into hunting. And again, hunting depends on recruiting the youngsters. Get them in the sport. Any questions, feel free to go to buckobsessiontv.com's contact page, send me an email, we talk, or hit us up on our social media platforms. But again, hope you have a blessed weekend, and we'll see you on our next podcast. Thank you. Thanks for watching and listening to Buck Obsession TV Podcast 2019.